And welcome. This is Kellie Davis, and I'm running for Oceanside City Council District 3. And thank you for joining us today. This week, our series is called Reduce, Reuse, and Recycle. And to kick off this week, I have an amazing guest. But before I introduce the amazing Valerie Grant, I would like to also say, as I do often, this is no way an endorsement. This is just a good friend of mine who I asked to come on, and for many reasons, but she's coming on to share information this week about how to reduce, reuse, and recycle in terms of grant writing. Now, Valerie is also another Hera hubby, as we call them, and she's been nominated for a NAWBO Award, and we have voting this week. Last week we had Lisanne Basquiat on, who's also nominated, and this week I wanted to feature Valerie and all the cool stuff that Valerie Grant does. So I'd like to welcome the incredible and amazing Valerie Grant.
Well, thank you. I hear applause already. Thank you, Kelly. It's an honor to be with you, and I'm so grateful even to have been nominated for that NAWBO Award. It's for the Woman's Advocate of the Year. And while I do advocate, I didn't consider myself purposely advocating for women. It's just part of who I am. And it was a natural outflow to work with organizations that serve women and help mentor younger women and bring them up and do all types of different programs and grant related work to help women.
Yeah, and Valerie, I have to say, a lot of the humbleness of you, because Valerie, personally speaking, she has this amazing space of being able to listen. And as much as people are like, oh, listen, no. She listens. And I have been able to witness her in challenging situations to navigate and help listen to people move through. And you know what? I don't even think that comes with the grant writing aspect. I think it just has to do with her being a fellow Michigander as well, and all the awesomeness that comes with that. But while we're on the topic, Valerie, besides listening, what do you do and why you do it over there with Grant Consulting Services?
Well, the name kind of explains it. And hey, this month we're actually celebrating 20 years in business. Whoa. I know, it's amazing. So we work primarily with nonprofit organizations to help them in the grant development process. That means listening so that we can help them put together a program plan, which is kind of like a business plan. And then we help them find potential funders. Then we submit grant applications, and then we help them with the other side, once they've received funds, to do the reporting, make sure they're in compliance with the grant regulations, especially for state and federal types of funding, and just help them through the whole process. So we're also working with businesses, and more funding, especially COVID-related funding, have become available for businesses and for solopreneurs, even one-person shops. So this has been an interesting time to be in this industry because of the expansion that's happening of funding that is available, which is a good thing. People need help right now.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Valerie. Our last week we spent talking about a vision for Oceanside and encouraging and supporting local business and entrepreneurs. And one of the things often comes up, even when I do these forums, is money, obviously. And with your particular service, you help, I know you help personal, you help businesses, nonprofit and for-profit businesses, but do you also help cities? Question.
Funding. We haven't worked with a municipality yet, but there is definitely potential for that because cities, they usually have people on staff that will do the grant applications, so to the state or even the federal level. So for cities, there is definitely funding available.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
And so let's get into a little bit of, again, this is reduce, reuse, recycle, and some of the initiatives that are out there, funding initiatives for eco, green friendly kinds of businesses and
Right.
people. Yeah.
Right, we're in California, so California is known for being a green state. And so for this conversation, I took a look at funding that is available at the state level, and that is also available for businesses. So businesses and nonprofits can apply for this funding, and that one's due today. So, okay, that's not fair. People can't use that one. It's due today. You're not going to throw together a grant application in one day. But I have a couple of other ones. The California Energy Commission has funding available to fund electric vehicle charging stations so that they can support large-scale conversion of buses. So this would be not like you see at the grocery store or at gas stations, but they want to have like a bus depot where they have either hydrogen or electric vehicle recharging. So that is due on October 7th, and that's open for municipalities, nonprofits, and businesses. I found that would be pretty interesting. And then we have, for recycling, everybody wants to recycle. We see continually how the plastic is breaking down in our oceans, and fish are eating plastic, and then that ends up in our body as well. So the Department of Resources, Recycling and Recovery has this new beverage container redemption pilot project grant program. Say that 10 times fast. So they want to increase recycling rates in underserved areas. Now that grant is not due until the end of January, so there's plenty of time to look that up on the state website and find out the details and see what you can do to help grow the recycling in California. So those are three of the larger grants. And then some of the smaller grants that are related to recycling, reusing, they're accepting research grants for pesticides. They want to make pesticides safer because it's not good for us to eat food that has non-organic pesticides. So there are research grants for institutes of higher education and also businesses. And then one of my favorites, recently I was at one of the lagoon areas in San Diego County, and they have a lovely walking trail. And because I'm a grant writer, I was kind of thinking, I wonder how much it costs to put that bench in, and how much would it have cost them to put this bridge in? So there is a habitat enhancement and restoration program that organizations can apply to help spruce up their areas so that the public, since we have to social distance, we have to be careful outside, but the public can go out to these trails and socially distance and still enjoy nature, be outside, and get some sunlight and fresh air, even during these times. And then one of my favorite programs is the Monarch Butterfly and Pollinator Rescue Program. I love those monarch butterflies. I just love how they flit around, and yeah, so there's funding for them too, because of various reasons with pesticides and other uses. The butterflies and bees are losing their natural habitat. So this helps to rescue them, restore pollinator areas. And monarch butterflies, I believe, they specifically like, what is it called? Milkweed. They like milkweed. So if you plant some of those, you'll be helping in the pollinator rescue area. So like I said, all of those that I just mentioned are eligible for businesses and nonprofits as well.
Well, thank you, Venus. I know she gave a lot of information. Some of it was in the chat. Were you able to capture a lot? By the way, Venus Johnson, my wonderful campaign manager, helps us out so much with bringing all the stuff in the conversation. Venus, how you doing? Were you able to get some of that stuff in there?
Yes, I did. And I also just found, I'm about to link your grant consulting website.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good, good. So Valerie, I appreciate it when you said,
Edith Johnson, my wonderful campaign manager,
Whoops.
helps us out so much.
So sorry.
that's, thank God it wasn't in my head. I was like, oh, not now, please. I'm on, so good. It's not me.
No.
What I was going to say was I really do appreciate your space of being out walking. And I have a similar space when I'm watching television or watching something with my husband, or if I'm going to a production. You just can't turn it off, Valerie, can you? How is this funded? Who did what? Is that what happens?
Yes, you've got it. I wonder what foundation gave funds for this. Let's see if there's a plaque. Maybe I can write that down.
With all the research that you have to do in funding and all of that, and you find out who does what. I mean, milkweed and monarchs, for example. Who knew? And I'm sure it's because you have to do extensive research for these kinds of grants. And
Yeah.
And my next question would be, is like, okay, I got all these wonderful ideas. I just listened to Kellie Davis's last thing about entrepreneurship, and I'm ready. It's a reuse, recycle. I'm gonna get this funding.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna call Valerie Grant. Now what, walk us through the process of what happens when a client comes to you. Whether it's an individual or a business, and if it's different, please share why.
I think they're the same process. The only difference would be how far along or how old is their organization. The steps would be different if they're a brand new or fairly new organization versus one that's been around for 10 or 20 years. So the first step is to do a grant assessment, and I have an easy online link that I send to people that express interest in working with me, just to get to know a little bit more about them and to find out, do they have their 501c3? Do they have their state articles of incorporation? Just kind of getting a little bit of a framework around where they're at, because then that gives me a better idea of where we need to go. And then I learn more about their story, what they're doing and what they want to do. Why do they want grant funds? So we go through that process of kind of digging through, and that can take a couple of weeks to a couple of months, depending on where they are in the process and how much time they have to contribute to the process. I always say grant writing, it really is a team effort, because I need their vision, but I need to understand their vision so that I can help them to tell that compelling story to a potential funder. So we work on the grant plan after the assessment is completed, and we put together, I think I mentioned, it's like a business plan. So it's information about the organization, how they do what they do, what impact they have, and most importantly, what need are they meeting in the community. For example, I mentioned the recycling. We have a great need for more recycling. I see trash along the roadside, and one that needs to be cleaned up. And most of the trash that we see could be recycled. And so it doesn't have to go into landfills or the side of the road or into fishes' bellies. And, so there are needs, those are needs that can be met. And some of the funding that I mentioned might be able to meet those needs. So in that grant/business plan, we're putting together the needs, and then finally stating what the funding objectives are. Do they want to expand their programming into all of San Diego County or into other areas across the country? Are they trying to just reach more people? And with COVID-19, the needs of people changed kind of overnight when businesses closed and children stopped going to school in a building. So we have focused a lot on transitioning to a digital platform or transitioning to learning online. So a lot of organizations, even if they're not schools, but if they're serving the public, especially nonprofit organizations, they needed funds to move to a digital capacity to still help their clients in need. So we work on that grant plan. We put that together, and then I do a funding search. And my team and I have a couple of different tools that we use to look for potential funders. We put in all the criteria that we've collected through the survey, through the grant plan, and then it gives us back results. We go through those with a fine-tooth comb. We also check to see, is there a potential connection? We ask our clients, do you know anybody on their board? Does your board know anybody at this foundation? Because the chances of being funded, honestly, are a little bit higher if there's a personal connection. You know, that's how business works. So we've checked for that connection. We just also want to make sure it's a good fit. We don't want to waste anybody's time or money. And so we make sure it's a good fit before we submit the application. And then we follow the funder's guidelines. I think if I had to give a piece of advice, and I have given this advice to young people that I'm mentoring, just follow the guidelines. Just give them what they're asking. If they're asking for 3 pages, don't give them 4 pages. You know, 3 pages with the attachments that they want. And most funders will tell you exactly what they want. And some funders tell you in very, very scrutinized detail exactly what they want. So submit the application, and then it's a waiting game, waiting for them to decide. And usually they'll have a funding window. It takes a couple of months sometimes to get a yes or no response. We cheer when we get a yes, and we say darn when we get a no, and then we move on to the next one. So in a nutshell, that's the process with businesses and nonprofits.
Wow. Okay. So you go through the process, and if it's a yes, let's stay on the optimistic side here. Yeah, I got funding, Valerie. Is that it with you and the business, or the person that has gotten the funds, or is there some kind of, I don't know, post thing that you do with grant funding?
Yeah, hopefully it's not the end. Hopefully we're continuing to work with them to submit additional applications, because it usually takes more than one. And if they can obtain grant funding, then they can do more good. So hopefully we're continuing to do that, and also helping them with compliance, making sure they file reports. Some funders require a report 6 months after the grant funds are awarded. They just want to know how their money's being used. So we help craft that report with the help of the client, obviously, and the program managers that are in the field doing the work day to day. So we talk with them, we talk with the executive directors, we get their information, and then send a report to the funder.
And when it comes to, I think this is a good question, because you'd be like, okay, well, how much does this cost me to whatever? How does that work with payment towards you, or is it negotiable? What happens with that?
Yeah, I am a member of the Grant Professionals Association. I'm actually the San Diego County chapter president, and our code of ethics state that we cannot take a percentage of the grant. And I know it's surprising, and most funders don't allow for that. And the reason is because I do the work most of the work prior to the application ever being sent out. So payment has to be received prior to work beginning, or as work is going on. And you don't want, a part of the reason why they made this part of the ethics statements of this international association is because sometimes people will embellish when they think their payment is contingent on receiving funding. So they may state that the organization could do things that they might not be capable of doing, is what they kind of ran into in the past, and decided as a profession, we don't want to work that way. We want to be honest, we want to be transparent and forthright. And since we're professionals, like I said, we do the work prior to the grant award. And it can be risky for nonprofits. I know that, I understand that, and I try to work with them on a payment plan if needed, because even though I may put together a terrific Pulitzer Prize worthy application, they might not get funded. And that's the hard truth.
That is, I'm so glad that you clarified that. I thought that that's how you all got paid, is through the getting a percentage of it, and to find out that that is ethical, I guess I won't tell them where I heard that one, because perhaps we're supposed to do that then. I mean, according to your organization, it said that you're not.
Right, and I know that the the American Fundraising Professionals has the same type of ethical statement as well.
So realistically, like I said, and I guess there's probably, maybe I should not say realistically, if I am a person that really, with COVID, so many people have had to reimagine their lives, period.
Right.
Also, they have not been able to go back to their jobs from March, or they were going and then they got laid off, and they're really trying to think of what they want to do. I don't know if it's realistic is not the name I want to say, but do an individual stand a chance of getting some funding if they never went through a grant process before?
Probably not through the foundations and organizations that I typically submit to. There was just recently some grant funding for businesses through the County of San Diego, and that was COVID-19 relief funding. So if you were a solo business owner or a small business owner, you may have recently been funded. They only told us about wave 1 for that. Wave 2 is coming on their next board meeting after the 29th of this month. So I'm still hopeful that additional organizations will be funded. Now, if you were an individual, you would not have been eligible to submit that type of application. Individuals generally are not eligible to submit a grant application to any organization. What they do instead is the funds are funneled, not funneled, but they come through the organization, and the individuals go to the organization to receive services.
Yes, that makes sense.
Right.
I have understanding of that. So when it comes to now that we've gone through the process, they have hopefully gotten the funding, and even if they haven't gotten the funding, it sounds like you all still keep cooking, right? You still keep looking until they say stop.
Right. Hopefully they say stop, we have too much money, but that's usually not the case. Yeah, so we've had clients that we've been working with from several months to several years. And like I said, we've been doing this for 20 years. So we've had just the best time getting to know people, organizations, and institutions from across the country. It's just been really wonderful because we can hear every day about the yucky stuff that's going on in our world. But for us in my company, we get to help meet the needs of people. We get to help be part of the solution and not the problem. And that is so enjoyable for me and my team.
That is awesome. And I think it's a good plug again to NAWBO Women's Advocate Award. Is that right, Valerie?
Women's Advocate of the Year.
Of the Year Award, and it's through NAWBO. We're going to go ahead and put that on the comment section again. And voting happens this week, and I think it's only through Friday. Is that right, Valerie?
Friday at noon, so vote for Val, please.
So Friday at noon, so it's through the week, and
Right.
we're going to include the link, and all they have to do is, I haven't clicked on it yet, but you clicked on the link, and I'm sure everything comes up for you.
You have to register, but it's free to register, and you can only vote once, but there are additional categories coming up this Friday. For the next 3 weeks, there are other women that are nominated in different categories, and then we have to wait until the 23rd of October to find out who won. I know. I know. Well, because it's virtual this year, that's how they had to do it. And they're doing a fabulous job. They've pivoted from a regular event that was in person to now everything being online. So they're doing fabulous. And helping to get the word out so that everybody can vote and understand more about what we're doing as women to affect positive change here in San Diego County and Oceanside and other communities.
And I think when we talk about people adjusting business, I mean, during this time, would you say you're as busy, less busy, or more busy? Just out of curiosity.
I am busier than I've ever been.
I thought you would be. I thought you would be, because people are really trying to figure out, businesses are really trying to figure out how to stay afloat, yes?
Yes, and nonprofits even, their funding, you know, individual donations make up about 70 to 80% of funding to organizations. So when people don't have money, they don't donate. So they have to make up the gap, as well as if they can't do their programs, there's no program revenue coming in for the nonprofits. So it's just like a restaurant. If you can't serve a meal, you don't make money. So the program related fees that they usually get, they're gone. So we've really had to pivot and try to think of creative ways. Fortunately, the funders have been great in responding to the needs of the nonprofit community and are offering more funding in for specifically COVID-19 relief, which is why I'm busier than ever, is because I'm helping organizations apply for that funding. In addition, for businesses, I've helped a couple to apply for funding for brand new like PPE equipment, you know, like different face shields and masks and new inventions and such. So that's been interesting as well.
And if someone says, hey, you know what? Maybe I can be a grant writer. I know, you know, how to, because I'm trying to remember in college, was that, I mean, how do you have to have a degree? How does someone do what you do?
Yeah, experience, volunteer maybe with an organization, join our Grant Professionals Association. There is a mentoring program. I also mentor through the North County Philanthropy Council, which is another great organization. And just start working with somebody that has some experience. There is not a degree. There are several credentials, the Grant Professional Certification, and there's also courses that you can take. I know Indiana University, San Diego State has some courses that you can also take. So there is no formal degree that you can earn yet, but maybe that's coming. We'll see.
It's considering how busy you are and how many people, like you say, in cities, businesses, you know, everyone's looking for that funding right now, because it's just been, we've been hard hit by COVID. So I certainly appreciate professionals like yourself and that are able to have the knowledge and be able to sift through that process. And it's why you've been nominated for the Advocates Award. I'm gonna tell you, because it's advocating on behalf of people. So I want to thank our Facebook Live audience for joining us. And Valerie, if you could just hang on a second before after we hang up here. But again, this is Valerie Grant with Grant Consulting Services, nominated for a NAWBO Award. So be sure to register and vote for your favorite female advocate. And again, stay tuned for tomorrow with our series of Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. We will be having, Victoria Rodriguez on from North County. Yes, you know, she's yummy. So thank you, Facebook Live, for joining us.